Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top. On top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Women on Top, everybody. And today I certainly have a woman on top sitting with me. I have Melanie Borden, who is a trusted brand strategist. She is the queen of all things brand. She is also the author of Theater of the Mind, and she's founder of the Borden Group. So she really helps founders and executives turn their expertise into these visible, searchable, trusted businesses and brands. So Melanie, I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Valerie.
Yeah, I am really excited to learn all about the work that you do. And I feel like branding is something that so many of us hear about, but we struggle with. And I kind of just want to start there, honestly, about what is it? What even is a brand in your mind? And just kind of start at the basics of what does it even mean? Because I feel like we kind of build it up and we maybe overthink it a little bit. So I'd love to hear your definition.
Yes, definitely. It's a great question. We definitely overthink it. And I think ultimately what a brand is the essence of the being. And if you will, a lot of the work I do is focused around working with individuals. So when we talk about personal brand, there's always this side conversation going on by those who have worked in brand for the last 30 years where they feel that a personal brand isn't a thing. But I'm here to disrupt, to let them know that it is. And it's really ultimately, how do people remember you? What do they think of when you're not in the room? What makes up you and what is your overall essence? And not to simplify, but that would be to me what someone's personal brand is about,
Mhm.
is that feeling, that overarching, who are they?
Yeah.
And being able to answer that pretty quickly is what someone's brand is.
I like what you said about kind of this inner essence. So then it makes me wonder, is this something that we create? Because you often hear that too, you have to create your personal brand. Or is it just something that you are?
I think it's something that you are. And I think that what you do is you create by taking parts of your life, parts of your career, whatever your reason for being and for creating a presence for yourself, and you transfer that over to whatever medium, whether it's podcasting, whether it's a social platform, whether it's a website, whatever it is, you're essentially taking those pieces of your essence and putting that in a place. And that is really where the create personal brand comes from. But
Yeah.
it's so many different things because it's not just your online presence. It's not just going on podcasts. It's not just speaking. It's going to conferences. It's going into meetings. It's all of the things that
Yeah.
makes up your personal brand. So the challenge that a lot of people have is getting kind of that spaghetti in their brain about, well, what does that mean? And who am I? And how am I going to put myself out there? And what do I want to say? And how am I going to say it? And I have to look this way and this person looks that way. And really just kind of going into this cluster of overthinking. And I see it happen all the time. And I also do it myself.
Yeah. I feel like some of the reason it's hard to kind of tap into that personal brand is because it's this level of vulnerability and getting really clear on who you are and being okay with showing up to the world. And I wonder how do you help others do that? And how do you help yourself do that as well?
These are such great questions. So It's always interesting when I'm working with someone. A lot of times, who I work with is I work with founders, work with executives, I work with executive teams, I work with a lot of companies in tech. And what I see a lot of are people who are so uber successful. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they've become successful just through hard work. I mean, they're just successful. They don't necessarily have a presence
Right.
online. They have a presence in their industry and they're known for the work that they do
Yeah.
and for getting results. A lot of times, these individuals see themselves very differently than how everyone else sees them. And that's the hard part. Even I get caught up in it because I see myself as one way,
Hmm.
but someone who's known me for a long time might see me as another way. When I was writing my book, I was dealing with such crazy imposter syndrome while I was writing it because I kept thinking to myself, who's going to read this book? I don't know who's gonna read it because I was so challenged with writing the physical book.
Mm-hmm.
It was so difficult for me to do it. It was just, and I hate to use negative words, like it was hard for me and it was difficult, but it really was. It was
Yeah.
really hard. And so I started doubting myself and all the work that I have done in my career, almost like I forgot that it all happened. And
Mm.
one of the ways that I work with my clients through it is number one, I'm super direct. And so a lot of times, yes, I'm opinionated and I say things how I feel. I say things what I think. And a lot of times I'll say what other people are thinking but don't say. And that's one of the reasons why people hire me and bring me in. But looking at basic things like awards that you've won, letters that you've saved, emails that someone has sent you, just looking at the actual tangible proof of your career and saying, wow, I am worthy of this.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, imposter syndrome, even though it's thrown around as a word that sometimes is overused, it's really a thing that happens when it comes to putting yourself out there on a professional platform like LinkedIn. And I see it so frequently where people will be able to deliver a keynote to 5,000 people. But when it comes to posting something on LinkedIn, they freeze and they can't do it. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to say it. And it's almost as if they need to be reminded of the things that they have accomplished and to be told that they are as good as everyone else feels that they are. And
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I mean, I have a document binder that I've had since 2002. And I talk about it in my book. I keep everything that's positive to hype myself up. And so I have every single letter that a VP of sales had written to me every month. I was above plan for years, saved every single one, every single magazine cover I've ever done. I have the physical magazines, every single newspaper article that my parents had put for something to announce something for my career. I saved everything. And it sounds a little bit like hoarding of things from the past, but it's really proof to
Yeah.
say, you can do all these things and you are who you are putting yourself out there to be. And it
Yeah.
really works as a psychological mindset shift.
That's a really good tactic that we can all take away. And I've heard it before, to kind of collect some of these things, and I've been really terrible at doing it. And I think that's kind of a step for all of us, for many different reasons, but for this one certainly, where you can look back and really reflect on some of your worth, some of your values, some of the fact that you do know what you're doing, and those moments when you feel that imposter syndrome kick up. So the title of your book is called Theater of the Mind. Did it come from that place that we're talking about right now, where you're in this kind of craziness, or it feels like you're performing, or where does this title come from?
Oh, yeah. Yes, all of the above. So, theater of the mind is a phrase from the 1930s from radio. And so once upon a time, people used to sit in front of the radio and listen to a Western or listen to a drama. It was before television. And this concept came to be called theater of the mind. I learned about it um, several years ago, but it was in a different context I was working in retail automotive. I was working as a VP of marketing, and I would sit in on the sales meetings and I
Mhm.
would listen to how the leadership team would talk with the salespeople about how they present themselves and how you want to make others feel, and to create this theater, if you will, of a positive experience. And that is exactly the lesson that I brought with me, especially when I started doing the work that I'm doing now. When I shifted from working in marketing for someone else to essentially going into a different niche within marketing, which is personal brand. When I started doing that and I started experiencing these people who I would work with who would say to me, I really want to do this. I've been following you for a really long time, but I didn't start working with you because of X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times it came down to fear of doing something wrong,
Yeah.
fear of being exposed, fear of saying the wrong thing. There were all these fears. Yes, imposter syndrome, 100%. That was a part of it. And a lot of times people believe that they have to put on this performance. And so when I started writing the book, it was really about the work that I was doing with my clients. But a lot of times, a lot of people are just really not equipped and ready for what happens to them. And I also noticed there are so many people talking about personal brand, and so many people have a personal brand, but who's talking about what happens if you're not ready? What happens with with your mind when you see yourself as being one version in, 2002, maybe not necessarily even consciously. And then now you have to position yourself as you've elevated over the years, but you view yourself totally differently than how everybody else views you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe, and this is the case with Instagram, with TikTok, we're always kind of catering to this algorithm.
Yeah.
Like the platform God is the
Right.
algorithm. And we're all kind of trying to worship this platform God.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's very performative. And when I was experiencing all this burnout and I was going through imposter syndrome and I was thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing with my life? Which is a lot of times when people come to me, they're at a crossroads and they're saying, what am I doing? How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
How do I need to show up? Who am I showing up as? And so it all kind of came together, but people use the platform to create this theatrical performance.
Mm.
Right? They say things because they know that the algorithm, regardless of platform, is going to pick up on it.
Yeah.
They know that if they're using these specific tactics. So it is all very much a theater.
Mm. I'm wondering, there's so much goodness in what you just said, but I'm wondering you touched on when people are not prepared or if people are not ready. Can you share more about what you mean by that? Like, when you're working with a client, are they not ready for the positive things? Are they not ready for the hard lessons that come when you have to look in the mirror? Like, what are they not ready for?
A lot of times, what happens when you're going to market and you're doing an initiative, like let's say, for example, I'm working with a team of individuals for a leadership team from a
Mhm.
company, and they have a new product that's going to be launching in Q3. And so their goal for Q2 is to get ramped up. They want to get everyone aligned. They want everyone to have strategies. They want the plan for tactics and execution. And so one of the things that I talk to my clients about, and I talk to friends about this because it's just something I talk about a lot,
Yeah.
is those who you will encounter when you do an initiative like this. And what does that mean? So it's not just posting a podcast, or it's not just posting going to a conference. You're putting this content out there for the world, for the universe to see, to absorb, and there's different people that will see this. So there's essentially different profiles. You have the people who you've worked with in your career,
Yeah.
who start seeing you coming out there and want to be supportive and will reach out to you and say, how can I help you? I love what you're doing. Can I introduce you to someone? And they will be the positive cheerleaders publicly, privately. They're going to be there for you. You also have the people who will see what you're doing, who will watch what you're doing, and they will not do anything until they're ready for you. And those are what we call the lurkers.
Hmm.
They see your content, they might not engage with it, but they know what you're doing and they know what's happening. Then you have the people who are not happy about what you're doing, and they are negative, And they could be people that you work with in your office. They could be people that you used to work with, that you know through your industry, who reach out to you and might say negative things and might not be positive. And when you encounter these people, it can be very overwhelming for someone who's unprepared, who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know that this is going to happen, who doesn't know that if I put out my thoughts, that someone might say, "Oh my God, I love everything that you're saying. Let's schedule a time to get together." On the flip side, you might have the person that says, "You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about." Basically everyone's greatest fear of having that person who's just going to, come out from under the bridge and show their walking stick and yell at you
Right.
because they've been a troll living under that bridge, not like the good, cute ones with glitter that are different colors. They're like the mean trolls
Yeah.
who we don't want to see, but it's a real part of metrics that I track. I mean, these are not KPIs that someone is seeing in a dashboard. People are seeing this and experiencing it. And a lot of times people think that it just is going to instantly result in whatever their goal is. But the truth is that the consistency in the messaging is really what converts. And that's when you start seeing all these people. And I always tell my clients, if you have someone who's not being great,
Yeah.
whether it's publicly or privately,
Yeah.
they're being negative,
Mm-hmm.
I look at that as a positive because that means your message is landing. That means the things that you say are disrupting whatever space you're in.
Yeah.
And it
So
just
good.
is a metric that I track for success
Mm-hmm.
versus not success. And so when I say that, you know, um, this is working versus this is not working, or being ready and not ready, it usually ties back to those things.
I like that. Like, how can we look at the fact that your message must be landing in a way that it's hitting the nerve of some of these people who are having a reaction, whether that's positive or negative? I'm, as you're talking, it makes me wonder, what would you say that your brand is?
What would I say it is?
Yeah, like how would you describe your brand to somebody? You work, yeah, I'm just imagining of, who you work with. And then
Yeah.
it had me thinking like, gosh, how would you describe your own brand? Um, speaking to maybe a world of listeners who don't know you as well.
Yeah. No, I would describe myself as I am somewhere at the crossroads between brand and marketing. I really don't feel that I'm in one specific box because a lot of times I get labeled as a coach. I'm not a coach. I'm really an advisor to executives and executive teams and founders
Hmm.
on how to help them create visibility. When someone thinks of me, I want them to think, number one, that I'm knowledgeable. I want them to think that I'm a kind person, I'm professional, and that I get it done. I mean, ultimately, that's what I want to be known for, is for the results that I provide for my clients.
Mm.
And to me, that's number one, is, am I doing the things that I set out that I'm going to do? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you also mentioned earlier that you're kind of like a straight shooter. You kind of had this no BS style about you, and that's why people actually come to you, because it kind of establishes this trust, it seems like, where you're not going to hold back as maybe some others will. And I kind of, want to invite you to not hold back. I'm curious what your clients, in general, as you're thinking about maybe especially women, because this podcast is for women, if you could kind of give us your, I what am I trying to ask? I'm trying to ask like advice that maybe you would say on the whole for women who are trying to create personal brands, and just be kind of like ruthless about it in terms of, that consistent threads and themes that you see, and just talk to us directly about like, here's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like to say that I'm a yes woman, because not because I'm going to say yes to everything that someone says, but I'm going to say yes to encourage them that they should be doing those things. And a lot of times, what I see with women specifically is we hold back because we don't want to offend someone. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I mean, I do it myself. I was at a meeting the other day and they were talking about achievements and accomplishments. And I have so much good going on that I said nothing because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And this was a week ago.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't want to make anyone feel bad because I have so much good happening that it would be overwhelmingly like shocking to someone. So I just didn't say anything and I felt, okay, I'll just let everybody else kind of go first.
Yeah.
No, you need to stop doing that. And I need to stop doing that. And I think when it comes to personal brand and putting ourselves out there, I think it's good to be thoughtful and mindful of the content that we're putting out, of the things that we're saying and how we're representing ourselves. I think it's very important for us to be cognizant of how we appear,
Mm-hmm.
right? I definitely think that's a big part of it, especially in business. You want to be taken seriously. And I
Yeah.
find that a lot of women just hold back. They
Mm-hmm.
hold and they're like, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for this moment. This is going to happen. I'm going to have this thing happen with my career,
Yeah.
or this thing is going
Yep.
to happen. It's going to come together. This client's going to happen, and then I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, especially in the startup world, there's women that I've encountered that are like, I'm not going to say anything because I'm looking for funding right now. And if I start posting about my startup, even though I'm pre-seed, I feel that it's going to inherently hurt me because of the fact that what if I'm looking at this investor who doesn't like me or my point of view or my perspective, and then I'm not going to get the funding. So I really believe that we need to stop thinking so much about how it affects others and start thinking more about ourselves and being more selfish in a sense of these are my goals that I have. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that I'm going to get to my goals over the next 5 years is by doing the following:
Mm.
by going on podcasts, by speaking on stages, by posting content on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and by going to conferences and going and networking and all of these things. A lot of times we wait and we shouldn't wait. We should go. We should
Yeah.
go. And the things that are scary are ultimately the things that we should be doing the most of.
Yes. Has it ever has it ever backfired on you? Have you ever experienced a time where you're posting or you're maybe, newly kind of creating your own business, something of that fact, and something somehow backfires? What was that experience like? And, did it take you down? Like, how did you recover from that?
This is a great question. And it's a story directly tied to my client work. So in 2021 is when I started my business and I was working for someone else for not that long. I actually had found the job through LinkedIn. They found me, I should say. A VP of marketing. I was working at a tech company and I had grown my audience on LinkedIn. At the time, I probably had about 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I was starting to get all these messages from people. And they were saying, hey, I'd love to work with you. Or, can you help me build this? I want you to do for me what you did for yourself. But I couldn't because I worked for someone else. So I took a chance and I quit my job. Okay. No business plan, no nothing. Okay. For the first 4 months that I had my business, I did not make $1 and I started to really freak out. But there's a positive, I'm going to share both the positive
Yeah.
part of it and also the negative part. So I was really freaked out because I thought the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to go find another job because I'm not making any money. The best case scenario is it's going to be better than I could have expected and my business is going to turn out great. So interestingly enough, I had been doing a ton of reach out with people at the time who I knew who had once expressed interest. So I started working finally with some of those people. About a year later, there was someone who I had known from the industry that I was working in. I was in the auto industry for my entire career, which I basically left in 2021, which was also a big change for me because I said, I'm done with this industry, not because of anything negative, but I'm ready to focus on the work that I wanted to do.
And that was in the pandemic,
I
2021.
know. It was really crazy, actually. It was a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah.
And so, flash forward, I started working with a client who had known me from the auto industry, and they had an executive team. They were looking to sell their company a few months later in the year, and they wanted to create visibility to find someone who would be purchasing their company. And we started working together. It started off great. It was wonderful. Um, Actually, it was one of the best campaigns that I had ever worked on because the visibility from 5 different people was so explosive that it became an issue for them internally where they could not handle the volume that had changed from each individual's personal brand, what we were doing. So they were going on podcasts, they were hosting webinars weekly, they were also posting on LinkedIn. And the CEO came to me and said, "You're creating too much visibility for us, and we can't handle this. And we need to stop working with you immediately." And this was after we had worked
Yeah.
together for probably about 6 or 7 months. And it was a huge client for me, and I was so crushed because I realized that I had made a mistake. There were other things that were at play behind the scenes. They had a controller who wasn't involved in the conversations that we had.
Mm.
So it wasn't really there was no, quantification of the work that we were doing. Although you could say on the flip side, it was bringing in a lot of results, so the controller would have been happy. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I didn't prepare their team for what could have happened, which lended me to writing different parts of the book to explain what can happen, not just to you from a business perspective, but also personal, how you're going to feel, how it makes you feel, what happens when you feel when someone around you is having that success and you're not. All of these things are factors that I didn't think about when I was doing that work at the time. But now, after years of doing this work, to me, it actually has been helpful because now I have a very documented intake process that I go through. My discovery call process
Mm.
is very extensive, where if it's a team of people, I have to interview everyone before I'll agree to work with them and things of that nature. So it ended up being a negative, but I turned it around and made it into a positive, and it's so much more structured. And the clients that we're working with now have a full understanding, and everyone really wants to be doing the work versus being told they have to do the work or maybe having their own limiting beliefs about the work that we're doing and why they're doing it. So
Mm.
I don't know if that was the long-winded answer to your question. Um,
Yeah. I feel like you got both had a benefit. Like the negative kind of led you to a better system, a better structure, the way that you support yourself now, all of those things. It's just, yeah, it's helpful to hear some of those stories sometimes because I feel like it's easy for us as women, at least for me, to put someone kind of on a pedestal and to look at them and to look at what they're doing and to think, oh, you just have it figured out. You're so much more qualified, whatever the things are that are going through our brain. And so it's good to know, like, oh gosh, there was a time where this is, something that happened, or I was being really visible and showing up in this way. And somebody decided that that wasn't for them. And, that can be really
right.
challenging to deal with. And so I just appreciate the vulnerability in sharing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing for women, there's a lot of times where I'll work with a team of people and there's usually at least one woman on the team
Yeah.
and the rest of the team is men. And what I will say is that I have heard the comments before, oh, women have it so much easier. It's so much easier for them to have engagement, or it's so much easier for them to do this and that, which is complete BS
Yeah.
because it has nothing to do with the algorithm isn't favoring women over men. If anything, there's a lot of people that would argue the opposite for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's like this whole ongoing conversation about it, which also don't think is true either. I don't think that the algorithm is really biased either way about who is posting what.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think for women, I think the hardest thing is just seeing us the way that others see us. So if we've worked really hard in our careers and we've achieved certain levels, a lot of times internally, we don't see ourselves the same way that other people might view us.
Hmm.
And just due to that, it creates this barrier to entry to starting
Yeah.
because a lot of people say, well, I have to wait for this to happen or for
Mm.
me to start. No, we don't want to wait.
Right. Yeah.
We want to go. We want to go. Go, go, go.
What are the things that women are, kind of like in essence, not getting wrong, I guess. Like, what are some of like the top three things if you could just kind of take us by the shoulders and shake us and be like, okay, is it just get out of your head? Is it something as simple as that? Or are there like tactical things that we are doing with our brand or how we're being visible that you wish we wouldn't do?
That's a great question. The one thing that I will say that I was guilty of earlier on was creating for me, not creating for others. And I think that a lot of times
Mm,
this is definitely a women thing. I've seen men do it too, but we create for ourselves. Now, listen, if you're going
yeah.
through an experience, you want to share it. And so this is something that I see a lot. It's a different animal, if you will, on different platforms because it really depends. There are some people who say, well, I'm not going to create for myself on LinkedIn, but I'll create for myself on Instagram. Well, you're still the same person.
Yeah. Right.
You're just moving to a different app.
Yeah.
You're the same exact person. So I would say when someone's creating, I would think about what do you want to be known for? And what do you know? What are those top 3 things that you are very strong in? And usually those are 3 things that are helpful to your audience or to someone who's on the other side. Just like for you, for example, for your podcast, Valerie, you're having different women come on and talk to women because you know that this is going to help the women that are on your podcast. And it's also going to help your audience too. So create from a place of your audience versus yourself. And I would also say a lot of times people, when they're building out their brand assets, they do the same thing. Well, I like the color olive green and I really love script font. Well, that's great. But is the woman who's watching your show and your audience, do they also love that?
Mm,
Is that a color that would resonate with them? And so I learned this early on where, a lot of times there's color psychology and there's also that font psychology too, where people are seeing different images and colors that we know. I mean, you see, the yellow arches and it's McDonald's, right? You see a red color and that's urgency, right? Because we see a stop sign, you have to stop.
right.
If someone's having a sale, a lot of times they'll have red with the signage because they want to create that sense of urgency. Just like a lot of times you'll see with banks, you'll see green. Think of TD Bank, or you'll see blues, which is trust. So you want to think about the colors that you're using and how it's also impacting those who would potentially work with you. It's a whole color psychology behind it. And
Mm,
I think that that's another big mistake that I see, whereas it's not necessarily about us, it's about our clients or, the end user of whatever we're, working on or putting out into the universe. And then I would say the third one would be to stop holding back and to just A B test. Because a lot of times, what I see is that people will hold back. Women
mm,
hold back all the time on talking about whether if they're a caregiver, right? If they have a
yeah.
family, maybe they're not a parent, but they're, they have other things going on in their life with their parents or with someone else. And they don't talk about it because they think it's going to make them look weak and it's going to make them look less than. And what it actually does is the opposite. It makes them more relatable. It makes them more trusted. It makes them human, which is everyone's trying to figure out how do I create content without AI? Well, tell your story, share a real part of yourself.
Yeah.
Because being real is really a differentiator in today's market. And the stories, that's a differentiator. I was just on a call right before this with a client and we were talking about her personal perspective because she's a little hesitant on sharing too much about her personal life for the very thing that we just talked about. She doesn't necessarily want to share too much. She wants to keep it closer. And the thing is that that's great. You can do that, but then you could share your personal perspective. What did you learn about? What did you experience? How can you teach others? What have you built? Because the truth is that today, regardless or not if you use AI to create content, those machines are looking for information about you because someone else is searching for that information about you using
Mm,
Claude or using ChatGPT. So you want to share your personal perspective because then it's going to say, this person, Melanie talks about X, Y, and Z. And this is the last post that she wrote on synchronized messaging and
mm,
leadership visibility and, theater of the mind, her book. You want to put your IP out there, if you will, and you want to just identify, 3 to 4 areas that really you are strongest in. And I would
Yeah.
say that would be my greatest takeaway for anyone. And I think that if you break it down one by one, it's not as scary as it feels.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. This is like a full masterclass for people who are listening. I just love what you shared and kind of that breakdown. That's so, again, tactical, and I think people can like walk away with that, which is what I keep hearing women are hungry for, is like just show me the way. But I'm guilty of what you said about, we create for ourselves, and that we're kind of creating this and making sure we look a certain way and making sure we feel good when we created it, and I don't know, putting the right song to whatever the reel is or whatever you're posting online, and ultimately that probably isn't really serving us very well.
Yeah, no, it's not. And the thing is that people will always judge the person, who's not doing it themselves. You'll never see, there's that saying, you'll never see an entrepreneur judge someone who's starting a business for a first time.
Right.
You're never going to see another creator who's built something from scratch start to give,
Right.
negative feedback to another creator.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I mean, everyone starts somewhere, and that's a big part of it too. Just being a beginner and just starting, everyone starts somewhere. All the
Mhm.
biggest female creators that you can think of, they all started from somewhere. And a lot of us, we all kind of started around the same time. Not everybody decides to do everything all in. And sometimes it takes a few years, but you're not too late. You're not too old. And I see so many, specifically on Instagram, there are so many female creators that are in their 40s and 50s. And it's wild to me how good they are at all of this.
Mm,
Like, and then just the volume of it is so impressive to me because
yeah.
it's so much work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
mean,
it is.
it
And the
really is.
consistency. Are there, some creators or personal brands that you're loving right now? That you're like, gosh, they have it. They know what they're doing. I love witnessing what they're creating.
Oh god, this is hard. There's so many.
I know.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, there's so many people who I love and look up to.
yeah.
Um,
And I know we can't
so
list them all. It just
I know, I
curious
know,
off
I
the
know.
top of your head, like, kind of recently.
So, platform specific, so specifically on LinkedIn, there's Amelia Sordell. She's great. She also is on Instagram. Her content's great. She's British. She works in a similar space as me in that personal brand world. She's very funny,
Mm.
and she's super smart, and she's got really great content. Um,
What
she's wonderful.
Yeah. What is it like specifically kind of about her content that just you're like, okay, she's doing this right? Is it the color? Is it just the consistency? Or what are those elements?
So what I love about her content is she's very direct. Like you feel like she's talking to you
Mm,
in her content. And I
okay.
really love that because a lot of times you will see that certain voices kind of get muted when they start overdoing it with AI.
Yeah, definitely. That's a downside of AI right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Y-
really is. And it's too bad. I mean, listen, I love it. I use it all the time.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to do most of what I do without it. I actually think, how was I doing this in 2021? Because it's such a great partner to have. But what I like the most about her content too is she's very real,
Mm,
just tells honest stories. And I really enjoy her posts on both Instagram and LinkedIn, both of them. I think
okay.
that she's a really great creator.
Yeah.
Another creator who I love, who I've always loved her content, she actually came from telecom. And selfishly, she's also in the past been a client to mine.
Perfect.
And I'm an advisor for one of her businesses.
Amazing. Yeah.
And her name is Eugenia Jordan.
Okay.
And she's the previous CMO. She has 23 patents. She has her own AI startup right now. She is so unbelievably smart and she provides so much educational content around AI. Her business is called Unified AI.
Mm,
And Unified AI basically acts as a way to connect all these different dashboards that companies have, specifically with small businesses, and just to have everything synchronized together and unified. That's
Wow.
why it's called Unified AI.
Yeah.
But I've known Eugenia since 2020. We met in the comments on LinkedIn, and she posts content, publishes on both Instagram, also TikTok, but specifically her content on LinkedIn and her newsletter is fabulous.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for calling a few out. I just always like to hear who's kind of grabbing your attention. And again, there's so many. We could probably spend the entire podcast talking about all the different brands that you love, but it's good to kind of have that breakdown, that reference point. So I appreciate that. I, as we're talking, I can just sense that this is such a you love this work. This is a passion of yours. This is something that speaks to your heart. What is it about this that just fuels your soul? And why do you feel like this is kind of your calling, if you will?
Such a great question. I do love this. I do love this work. I absolutely do. If I did not have to work, I would still do this work because I absolutely love it. One of the reasons that I love what I do is because I truly feel that I help people get to where they need to be. And in turn, they're helping someone else as well. So it's this kind of chain effect of, or domino effect of working with someone, helping someone, and then in turn that person is able to take those tools, take those skills,
Yeah.
and then help others as well. And that's really why I feel very much like a guide to a lot of my clients
Mhm.
and to those who even who aren't my clients, even, friends who I don't work with, but we'll go out to dinner and then all of a sudden we're talking about personal brand, sitting around a table having cocktails. And it's just definitely part of who I am for sure, and helping package and promote people and just really lifting others up, because that's what a lot of this work comes down to, is making people see themselves in a way that I see them and that the world sees them, and then kind of bringing that all together.
Do you witness some pretty amazing transformations as you work with these clients? I would
Yes.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. The best is when I start working with someone who's not sure,
Yeah.
who's really not sure what they wanna do, who's real they think that they wanna do something, and then once they start doing it, and then getting the call from them 6 months later or text and saying, "You're not gonna believe who reached out. You're not gonna believe this keynote I was asked to do. You're not gonna believe I'm publishing my book. I decided to do all these things." And like I mentioned earlier, I don't see myself as a coach. I see myself as more of a tactical advisor slash consultant, which are two different things, but I do see myself very much as a guide to my clients. And the transformations are definitely something that I can't make it happen, only they can. But I think that once you can kind of get over yourself
Yeah.
and your own internal feelings, and again, not a therapist, just did a ton of research um, through writing my book. But once you can kind of get through all of that and make that decision that you are going to use your voice as your platform
Yeah.
to take your whatever you want to do with your life, you can do it. You can create a platform anywhere. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of deciding where that platform is, and is it going to reach the people who you want to reach.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I love what you said. And, you mentioned like not a therapist, but I feel like there's so much interconnectedness to the work that you do and to that personal healing and that becoming. And there's a lot that's connected to the psychology, which I love that you use some of those principles in your work as well, because I feel like you would
Yeah.
have to. So
Yeah,
I love what you're
definitely.
doing. As a closing tradition on this podcast, what I have asked my guests to do is to leave a quote or reflection or something that's coming to them for the next guest, not knowing who it is. And so, what I'd like to do is to read what was shared for you and then give
Okay.
you the chance to share something for
Okay.
the next guest. Um,
Okay.
all right. So, the quote that was left for you is, don't let fear stop you from taking the next big risk. Don't let fear be the thing that holds you back. If you can understand fear, you can understand the difference between fear and intuition. And fear is not intuition.
Wow.
So,
That's really good.
yeah.
Really, I don't know how I'm going to top that. That's amazing.
No need to top. I mean, they always are like so perfect, just whatever is coming to you. But I would love to hear what might be on your heart today to share.
I can give you something that is a little bit shorter, a little bit more direct, a little bit more related to the conversation that we're having.
Absolutely.
And that would be, your confidence doesn't come before visibility. It comes because of it.
Ooh, I love that. That's good. That's really good. That needs to be on all of your, like, I don't know, t-shirts or something.
Open up a merch store, my website.
Oh, that's so good. The whole world of women just like all said yes to that. Like, I feel as though we talk so much about confidence as this thing and this skill you have to build and all of that. And I love how you just flipped that on its head and said, no, it comes because of the visibility. Oh,
yeah.
So good. I'm so excited to leave that for whoever the next guest is. And I'm so excited to share this conversation. I feel like we, dove into so many different aspects of personal brand and also just kind of got underneath the hood in a way that felt really special. So I want to just say thank you again for your time. Your time is so valuable. You're an author. You've got these amazing clients. You are serving as an advisor. You're doing some incredible work. I can't wait to see what comes next. So it's not lost on me that you chose to spend some time here today pouring into us. And I just really appreciate you, Melanie. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much, Valerie, for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.